If I was to ask you to predict the ending of Elbaf, you would most likely predict one of the three options. Option A, Emu's time limit runs out and the Straw Hats escape. Option B, the Straw Hats send Emu home through teaming up. And option C, Luffy literally killing Emu and writing him out of the story, leaving only Blackbeard to be the final villain. But what if I told you that there's an option D? Because the will of D that Emu hates so much will not cause a storm this time, no, because Elbaf will end in total failure. And yes, I mean total, brutal failure, even surpassing the likes of Long Ring Long Land and Sabaody. And what if I told you that the setup and foreshadowing for the Straw Hats suffering a total defeat in Elbaf has been there ever since the New World began, that everybody has missed? And today I will be ending the debate once and for all as to why Elbaf will definitely end in failure, not in a victory, not in a draw, total failure. And in the final section of this video, I will reveal the mystery character who will make a surprise entrance to the end of the Elbaf arc to wrap things up. But first, I would highly appreciate it if anyone wants to support the channel. There's no pressure of course, but there are some insane perks that you would greatly benefit from. Anyway, back to the video. I want to present 5 main reasons to back my argument. I'll start with the most obvious reason before working my way down the list to the more overlooked reasons that people are not really considering. Reason number 1. Emu simply cannot lose here. Do you really think the final antagonist of One Piece is going to get defeated before the world government itself gets defeated? Please bear in mind that just an arc prior in Egghead, Luffy could not even damage Walkery, and now people think he will beat his boss? And I know what people are going to say. Well, what about Emu's time limit? But that point backfires because if anything, the time limit will only force Emu to go all out and be more efficient, which he has already shown with his entrance, one-shotting Zoro, Sanji, Hadrudin, Jerd, Stanson, and now is getting the upper hand on Loki. It literally forces Emu to not waste any time or energy. He has to be efficient. And don't forget, even if we didn't see Emu till the Reverie arc, the Gorosei have been here since Jaya, over 1000 chapters ago, and Emu is the embodiment of the world government's corruption itself. The world government have been the enemy since chapter 1, so Emu simply cannot lose here. There is way too much build up for this character, literally carrying the weight of over 1000 chapters and 800 years of history on his back. And speaking of Jaya, this leads me to reason number 2, because did you notice how Oda has mirrored the pre-time skip with the post-time skip? To enter the Grand Line, we went up Reverse Mountain and saw one whale, but post-time skip we went under the Red Line and we were welcomed with multiple whales. Alabasta and Dressrosa. Crocodile almost took over the entire nation by manipulating them and playing hero. Crocodile did the same thing. He manipulated the entire nation and played hero, and he actually succeeded in taking over the nation, unlike Crocodile. Robin got blackmailed by CP9 and was forced to leave the crew. Sanji got blackmailed by the Yonko, Big Mom, and was forced to leave the crew. Are you seeing a pattern here? Everything that the pre-time skip does, the post-time skip also does, but on steroids. It raises the gravity of it. It's like, oh, you saw one whale? Okay, well how about hundreds of whales? Oh, you thought CP9 was scary? Well, how about a Yonko? If we follow this train of logic, here's how the pre-time skip went. Alabasta, win. Skypiea, win. Long Ring Long Land, defeat but was spared by Cruzan in the end. Water 7 and his lobby, win. Sabaody, defeat. Marineford, defeat. Now let's look at the post-time skip. Fishman Island, win. Punk Hazard, win. Dressrosa, win. Whole Cake Island, draw. Wano, win. Egghead, had to run away, defeat. Elbaf, that's the real question here, but I know. So if the post-time skip mirrors pre-time skip, consider this then. The major defeat at Sabaody was after Luffy and the Straw Hats were forced to run away. And do you know what arc in the post-time skip the Straw Hats were forced to run away due to being outmatched? Egghead versus the Gorosei. Emu's subordinates. So if post-time skip is supposed to mirror pre-time skip but on steroids, raising the level, then it's likely that whatever happened on Sabaody will be raised 10 times more at the hands of Emu at Elbaf, suffering a much greater defeat. And do you know what's even crazier? Both Sabaody and Elbaf has Kuma, so the pieces are already in play for one last get out of jail card for the Straw Hats, so that, you know, the story still continues. So now the third reason is that I believe Sanji's comments about things being way too easy and how Frankie was like, oh well, I guess we're just a Yonko crew. It's actually foreshadowing that the overconfidence of the Straw Hats will backfire, because why else would Oda write this dialogue? What, to make the Holy Knights, these endgame threats that Oda built up and that Dragon made a big deal out of, to make them look bad? No, this is basically a bad omen that Sanji and Frankie said. This is the opposite, they will lose here. That's exactly the same problem problem they had at Sabaody, they thought they were unbeatable before they got humbled. And guess what? Sanji literally got humbled here by Emu. It's not so easy now, is it? The fourth reason is more so me debunking the claim and common belief that just because it's an island arc that the Straw Hats can't lose here. But that makes no sense when we consider the fact that the world is going to flood anyway, so naturally people will fight and start wars over claiming Elbaf as their territory because it's high ground. It will make them safe from the flood, so it doesn't matter if the Straw Hats save Elbaf or not, it's doomed either way. Not to mention, every time that the Straw Hats saved an island, it was from an oppressive king that caused problems for society of the nation. Every island arc has a clear mission: defeat the villain and free the island, whereas in Elbaf was already peaceful with no societal collapse and no evil king. There was no primary objective to tick off. For example, Wano was clear: beat Kaido, free Wano. But Elbaf had no exact win condition. There was nothing to free Elbaf from, meaning it's likely that the opposite is true. When we enter an oppressed island, they free it. But what about when they enter an island that has no oppression? It becomes oppressed because Emu is here. Which leads me to my fifth and final reason. So you know how I said at the start of the video that I would reveal the mystery character who will arrive at the end? Well, here it is. Shanks. Now wait, I know what you're thinking. Do you really think Luffy will reunite with Shanks this early and when he's in a state of defeat? Well, do you really consider Shanks showing up at Marineford and seeing Luffy defeated at Marineford as their reunion? No, that doesn't count. Now you know how I said that the pre-time skip mirrors the post-time skip? Well, in Sabaody, it was Ray Lee, a former Roger pirate who held off Kizaru. So now to elevate that, this time it will be Shanks, Roger's prodigy, to fight off Emu, whilst Kuma, like in Sabaody, sends the Straw Hats away. But this is not wishful thinking, there is a lot of foreshadowing and setup for Shanks to fight Emu here. First of all, the Joy Boy Haki connection. Shanks' Haki was compared to Joy Boy, Emu's worst enemy, tying Shanks and Emu together. But that's not all. Emu already marked Shanks with the Shallow Sea contract. Shanks literally made sure to not go in close distance to Emu because of this mark. But now that Shanks has lost the arm which had a contract on it, it seems like this was the whole setup in the first place to allow Shanks near Emu again. Maybe Oda wrote that specific dialogue and scene for this exact setup ever since chapter 1 and ever since the Elbaf flashback. Maybe that was the setup, because when Harold fought Loki, his real personality came back for a few seconds when Loki removed his contract symbol on his arm, showing that removing it does undo its effect. Also, Shanks is always hanging out in Elbaf. Do you really think he won't come back to protect it? Considering Emu has arrived on Elbaf and is releasing a tremendous amount of Haki, it's most likely that Shanks can actually sense Emu's Haki through observation Haki. And no, distance is not an issue. Never ever forget, he beat Kaido in the New World and then less than 24 hours later he made it to Marineford. So Gartel Island, where Shanks was last seen, probably would take him 10 minutes max if he was to hurry over to Elbaf. And consider this, if Joy Boy's Haki made Emu scream and sent all the Gorosei home, and that was from one single rope, imagine Shanks, who has Haki on par with Joy Boy himself, competing with Emu head on. Shanks will send Emu home. And that, my friends, is why Elbaf will end in failure. And as always, massive thank you to my members, Cats Ate My Family, Uso Timor and Mr. Bushido 56. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely like and subscribe and check this video out over here, and I will see you there.